Being able to create stability and peace of mind during times of turbulence is the foundational philosophy of an emergency fund, especially when you're the head of a household of any sort. We are going to cover a handful of questions you need to be asking yourself in the framework of what your emergency fund should look like, so we can get done with this cookie cutter description of 3 to 6 months of expenses and get that out of the way. And let's talk about what a real emergency fund looks like for the needs of ourselves and the people depending on us the most, customized to us. Number one, what are the needs for yourself and those dependent on you? And I'm not just talking about the immediate clothes, food, shelter situation, paying your debt obligations and losing your job and paying your debt obligations. Do you have special needs yourself, or does anybody depending on you have special needs and accommodations? Some of us have elderly people in our family who have medication needs. We have children who have special needs, siblings. What are the needs of yourselves and the loved ones, the people dependent on you? And what does that look like financially if stuff hit the fan and you needed to be able to provide those needs for an extended period of time? The next thing you need to be assessing is, what kind of support do I have if an emergency kicks in? What kind of support do you have? Do you have family you can immediately turn to if for whatever reasons you cannot financially stay afloat yourself, or you can't stay afloat for a long enough period of time? What is your ability to be able to pick up the phone and call family for support? If you need to evacuate, do you have families that you can turn to in different cities or states to get out of Dodge if need be, versus having to come out of pocket for hotel rooms and living accommodations? These are the kind of questions you need to be asking yourself. The next thing you need to be assessing when it comes down to other financial questions is, what type of insurances do you have in place right now? When you think about most emergencies, a lot of different emergencies have insurance as an option. When you think about medical emergencies, short-term disability circumstances, even having to replace a vehicle on an emergency basis, all of these different things can technically be covered by insurance. And in a case where it's either immediate, or you may have to just foot the bill for a little while and be reimbursed. What type of insurances do you have if it hits the fan, right? So this is what you need to be assessing. The next thing that you need to be assessing outside of that is, where is my financial situation? What is my ability to be able to even put together an emergency fund or sustain an emergency fund? Because you have to ask, do I make enough money? Do I have enough excess cash flow at the end of the month for an emergency fund to even be a priority right now? And if you don't, then you may not need to be dealing with an emergency fund yet. Your emergency is already here. You don't make enough money, or you don't have enough cash flow. Outside of that, the next thing you need to be assessing is the long-term goal. What is your investment strategy? What is your current financial abundance look like? Are you in a situation where you have a strong retirement portfolio at play? You already have investments at play. You're stable in that arena. Do you have a great 401k? Do you have rental properties? Do you have a independent brokerage account you're managing, or IRA? Do you have a plan already in place if emergency never strikes, but you need to retire, or you want to have better financial abundance and freedom down the line? Do you have that in place? That's another thing you need to assess. And the reason for that is because you can create the emergency for yourself by not having your investments in play early. You have to understand, as I always preach on this channel, the most important component of successful investing is time. So if you don't have your 401k, you don't have your retirement plan, your solo 401k, if you're a business owner, rental properties, whatever your retirement strategy, or at least your financial abundance strategy, meaning that you may decide to work, but you have the finances to do it on your terms. If that's not at play, then you need to be considering how to devise that and get that in motion while creating an emergency fund if necessary. The next thing that you need to be assessing outside of that is, what is your credit situation? Why does credit play into your emergency fund? Credit creates scalability and flexibility. You can stockpile 6 months of reserves and have a 9-month emergency. Sometimes you have an emergency like evacuating from a natural disaster. You might not need to touch your cash at all, because in most cases with natural disasters, in many cases, you'll get government support. Many of us will get FEMA or some other form of support to compensate for the cost of us having to evacuate on the emergency basis. So if you have access to high credit limits, quality credit cards from quality lenders, then you can have a situation where you can float yourself for 30, 50, 60 days and know you're going to be reimbursed properly, or at least float yourself to a degree and know you're going to be reimbursed without ever having to touch your cash. You got purchase protections, getting great rewards points, and maximizing the benefits of your credit card without having to disturb your savings or disturb the money you can be earning on your savings, whatever the case may be. These are the kind of things that you need to be assessing. I recommend that you have, if you're looking to put together 6 months of reserves for an emergency based on your needs and the needs of your family, your loved ones, those dependent on you, I recommend that you have somewhere around double that in credit limits available to support you for the unknowns, whether the situation is not that severe and you can just afford to get some great credit card benefits, perks, and rewards because the emergency was something that you know you're going to be reimbursed for, or it's a bigger deal than your cash situation was prepared for, and you're not looking at your cash dwindling away every day or every week or every month, and you have nothing else to fall back on if you don't have a great family support situation, or if whatever the circumstances is that you can't account for right now. Having access to capital allows you to be able to create that peace of mind and stability while you figure out a longer term strategy. Many of you who are adverse to debt or concerned about, using debt or owing people money have to keep in mind, in an emergency situation, would you rather worry about having to pay somebody else back, or would you rather worry about not being able to eat, not being able to get proper medication for a loved one, not being able to provide shelter for a long enough period of time? This is very important. So this is the kind of thing that you need to be assessing, and this is the framework of what an emergency fund should look like. This is how you customize it to yourself. Drop down in the conversation section below. What is the most unique need you think you or your family has when it comes to an emergency, and what's your plan, or what have you put in place to financially prepare for it? I want you to comment it down below. To all my pioneers out there, welcome back. To my new viewers, welcome in. If you want to learn more about the channel, I want you guys to check out the description down below if you want to find out more ways to support the channel. That is also going to be in the description below. Other than that, I want y'all to stay focused, stay in motion. See y'all soon.
This is JP from Blueprint for Prosperity Network, a channel dedicated to helping you increase your net worth through relationship banking, maximizing your borrowing capacity, the proper use of life insurance, and the ownership of real estate. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm uploading content on a daily basis to help you customize your blueprint for prosperity.